salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear viewers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to a special edition of Ahlulbayt Live with my guest this afternoon, Sheikh Usama Al Attar. Sheikh, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
A brief reminder to our viewers that this is a live program and you can call into the show. Give us a call 0203 411 842 or you can text us 07506 842 842. Our topic this evening is in relation to the same theme over the last few days, commitment to virtue. Are you in? Tonight, or today rather, in particular, we're discussing about the concept of friendship in Islam. So, Sheikhna, friendship is undoubtedly one of the most very important social aspects of life. What does Islam have to say regarding friendship? Where does one begin?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. First of all, friendship is a very important virtue. I mean, by nature, the human being is a social human being. In other words, he needs to have some interactions with other people. So most people do not prefer living in isolation. And hence, we need to interact with others. Now, when interacting with others, then we have to make sure that we are interacting with the right group of people who, usually people, they say, no, as the saying goes, birds of feather flock together. Right. So you'll find individuals with similar ideologies, similar ways of thinking. And Islam comes in to realize, of course, the significance of this. And hence, Islam comes to say, you know what? Don't make everyone as your friend. And friend in the sense where a person who you feel comfortable sharing some secrets to, someone taking advice from, and communicating with, asking them, him or her, basically about some issues, etc. So such an individual whom you spend time hanging out with, talking to, asking for advice, seeking for help, this individual is a friend. Now, you want to have someone as a friend who is qualified, quote unquote, in giving you some good advice, virtuous advice, because it can make a huge difference. I mean, I'll give you one example here, historically, and I mentioned it on my lectures couple nights ago, but for the viewers who were not able to listen to it. Prophet Musa alayhi salam came to Fir'aun. And he told him, I have a proposal for you. If you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you believe in me as a messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become a mu'min. Basically, you become a mu'min, you believe. Then I will guarantee you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told me to guarantee you that you will keep your kingdom in dunya, and in akhirah you'll have Jannah, paradise. Win-win situation. You've got nothing to lose. Fir'aun, it is said that he liked the proposal. He thought about it. He said, you know what, this is a really good proposal. I remain as a king, my kingdom, my power, everything is the same. I'll believe in Allah, I've got nothing to lose. And then in the akhirah, if there is an akhirah, we'll get Jannah. But he told him, you know what, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. I said, okay. He left. Fir'aun then turned toward his friend Haman. Haman was the minister of Fir'aun, who's also mentioned in the Quran. Haman, when Fir'aun consulted him, asked him for advice, Haman realized that this is such a terrible proposal because of his interests. You know, if Fir'aun becomes a believer, he might become a weaker individual. He might become basically a person that might be shelved aside. Musa alayhi salam could become the more preferred individual. And hence, so Haman thought about it from his own perspective. Now, what did he tell Fir'aun? He said, Fir'aun, don't be fooled by such a proposal. He said, what do you mean fooled? He said, Musa is trying to fool you. How so? He said, right now you are a god, the god. You are the one whom people are prostrating to. Musa wants you to prostrate to his god. So he wants to humiliate you in front of all of the Egyptians. He wants all of the Egyptians to see you prostrating to his god. Then who will be the winner? He will be the winner. And you'll be the loser. People will lose their respect for you. And you will not be that individual, that respected king anymore. And Fir'aun thought, I'm like, my gosh, I never thought about it this way. I never looked at it this way. It's like, yeah. So Fir'aun rejected the proposal of Musa alayhi salam. All that because of one advice from a friend. Now imagine if Haman was, let's say he was not even acting of self-interest. Let's say maybe he is an individual who, what some of the ahadith say, do not befriend the fool, the ahmaq. A fool, and Imam Ali alayhi salam says, do not befriend the fool because he will try to help you, but will harm you. Here is an example of a fool. Now, although he might be very smart in military and power-wise, very intelligent man, he is a commander, so he's not a fool in that sense, but the Islamic perspective of a fool is a person who, despite his intelligence, cannot recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to deviate people from the path of Allah. So here is Haman, even if he was not acting of self-interest, he fooled, instead of helping Fir'aun, he fooled him into not believing in Allah. Now imagine if he had given him a wise advice. Believe in Allah. History would have changed. The course of history would have changed. Fir'aun would have won Jannah. He would have won dunya and akhirah. But subhanallah, you see, and sometimes and throughout our lives, we might come across individuals of such, where we think they're our friends, they're really good companions, very smart people, maybe in school they're doing really well.
Right.
But sometimes they do not really have the faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do not really understand our background, our culture. And the advice that might be given may not be the wise advice. And hence, I thought about this virtue of friendship to discuss, because it is, in my opinion, a critical concept and a critical virtue that we have to really, of course, respect, in the sense that when we have the friends, we need to really respect them, associate with them, because Imam Ali alayhi salam says, an unfortunate person is the one who does not have any companions, any good friends, good companions. And the more unfortunate person is the one who loses those good companions after gaining them. And that's even a more unfortunate person. So we don't want to be among such individuals. We want to, as social human beings, we want to associate with people, but we want to associate with the right people. At the same time, once we have those right people, we want to make sure that our relationship with them is well maintained, well respected, and following certain strategies, and maybe we'll talk about them inshallah. And this is basically the idea.
Subhanallah. Again, a reminder to our viewers that you can participate in the program. Tonight we're discussing commitment to virtue. Are you in the concept of friendship? Of course, we are delighted to have with us Sheikh Usama Al Attar, who will inshallah be with Ahlulbayt TV over the next few days. So we invite our viewers to take the most possible opportunity that we have here this afternoon to call in 0203 411 842 or text us 07506 842 842 and pose your questions, share your comments regarding our topic to the respected Sheikh, inshallah. Sheikhna, so we've spoken a bit about the importance of friendship through Imam Ali alayhi salam's hadith, and you started off by narrating to us a story from the time of Prophet Musa, may peace and blessing be upon him. But Sheikh, what does Islam say, or does Islam provide any sort of guideline or steps whereby one can maybe have a tick basically and say, okay, you know what, in this person I see this, that and the other, and therefore this person is suitable to be a friend? Are there any guidelines that Islam has provided?
Imam Ali alayhi salam, in this hadith that I mentioned, which is also found in Nahj al-Balagha, he advises his son, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, and of course the advice is not for Imam al-Hassan, it's for us really, about 5 qualities to avoid in a friend. 5. One, I mentioned the fool, and I mentioned who the fool is. Okay, because sometimes people think that if someone doesn't do well in school, he's a fool, I should avoid him. And that's no. I personally believe, on that note, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each human being with a certain talent. You may have someone who may not be very well at school. Yeah. I met some people who are not so good at school, but when it comes to computers, they're geniuses. They can, mashallah, program an entire, holy company, geniuses. I've met some people who, mashallah, as carpenters, they're amazing artists. I mean, they do some things which are, subhanallah, phenomenal. And at school, they're not so well, but in carpentry, they're amazing. So Allah gives every human being some skill. Okay, so I don't think there is a smart and a stupid person in that context. Right. We just have different talents. That's adu the rahmah of Allah. But a fool is a person, as I mentioned, the one who will try to deviate you. He'll try to help you, but he'll give you negative advice. Some people, for example, unfortunately, we have a lot of people who start smoking, and we just tell them, how did you start? So, well, a friend of mine told me this is really cool. If you really smoke, this it's cool. And hence, they try to help them out. But, or unfortunately, we've seen cases, we've come across cases where some youths, unfortunately, get into smoking basically, marijuana or weed or things like this. And it's introduced to them by a friend of theirs who comes and tells them, you know what, this is really cool. This really kind of takes your mind off a lot of things. So they try to paint smoking cigarette or smoking, this marijuana or smoking some of these drugs as a way that's so beautiful. So they create this mirage. And that is an individual who's a fool, they might think that I'm trying to help them out to ease their pain, to ease their difficulty, but they're destroying and ruining their lives. They're not really helping them solve the problem. They're just escaping from it. And once they sober up, they realize, my God, the reality is still there, the problem is still there. So what ends up happening is they go back into using more drugs, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. And that's how sometimes people that get addicted to drugs or alcohol, wal-iyadu billah, and things like this. So avoid a fool. Okay? Avoid what Imam Ali alayhi salam calls a liar. A liar, someone who will lie. If you see someone, maybe he's talking to somebody else and he lies. His parents call him up and he says, where are you? He says, oh, I am, for example, at the shopping center, when in fact they're somewhere else. And you just saw them lying. This individual, just like he lied to his parents, one day he will lie to you. Okay? And this lying could create a huge problem. So when you find a liar, try to avoid them. Admonish them, advise them, tell them what you've just did is wrong. If your parents are not comfortable with you being in this place, then maybe you shouldn't be here. So try to advise them. But if you find them insisting and lying, such a person you should avoid. Third criteria that one needs to avoid is what's Imam alayhi salam calls al-fasiq. Al-fasiq is a who, wal-iyadu billah, bluntly rejects religion and commits acts that violate Islamic jurisprudence. Publicly, wal-iyadu billah, goes to nightclubs. Publicly goes, for example, to places of wal-iyadu billah that one should not go to. And unfortunately, there are people who go to these places, even from the Muslim school of thought, and these places it's haram to even enter into them. And sometimes they drag their friends with them or friends with them, and unfortunately people start to get used to that kind of hormone city, that kind of nightlife.
But Sheikh, now what if you have a non-Muslim friend who let's say does go to a nightclub and all this, that and the other? So does that mean that one cannot befriend a
Well, you see, okay, here is the thing. We need to distinguish between, okay, we'll get back to those two traits, but to respond to your question, we need to distinguish between a friend and an acquaintance. Okay. A friend is someone whom you're kind of, let's say, you have an intimate interaction with. Intimate, and of course, I don't mean intimate in that sense, but in the context that you're with them, you're hanging out with them, you talk to them, you get advice from them. Now, acquaintance is someone who maybe they're a co-worker, a colleague at school, university, etc. So, when you choose a friend, now, if you have a non-Muslim friend in his culture, in his religion, it is allowed to do these things. So that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to hold someone responsible for my beliefs and so on. Lakum dinukum waliya din. You have your religion and your faith. I have my religion and my faith. As long as the other side can respect this. He respects that I cannot go to these places. He respects that when I'm together, for example, working, let's say, on a project, at the time of salat, I need to get up and pray. He does not mock me for doing so. Nor does he try to delay me for doing so. And there are some really nice people, whether they're Canadians or British or Aussies or Americans, etc. Very respectful people who, when they see you practicing your faith, they really respect it, and they show a lot of respect. So we respect those individuals, and I'm not trying to say we isolate ourselves in a box and isolate ourselves from the society. We live in this society. We are British people. We are Canadians. We are Americans. We are Australians, etc., etc. So we are members of the society. We interact with people from the society. What we want, just like other Christians we have in Canada, for example. In the city where I come from, in Edmonton, in Canada, there is a group of Christians who are known as the Hederites. Hederites are cousins with Mennonites. Mennonites and Hederites are a bit more conservative. They're more into farming. And you would find them, for example, wearing long skirts. Their women would wear long skirts. In fact, they wear sometimes even like a short scarf on their hair. Their men always wearing, for example, shirts and pants, or so on and so forth. So they're a conservative community, Christian, and they do not attend to certain, non-conservative functions. They would avoid them. So you'll find some Christians conservative Christians, for example, who do not like this kind of lifestyle, and they don't see it as appropriate. So they try to prevent their children from attending to them. And you'll have them everywhere, There is, for example, the Amish community in the United States, the Amish Christian community. Again, they're a reserved, they're a group of community that does not want to integrate in all those kind of a lifestyle, a lavish lifestyle, or a lifestyle where there's some things that they may consider as indecent. Yeah. So you'll have them everywhere, and people respect them, and they respect the others. So they live in the society, they interact with the community. It's just, we are the same. We have, just because we're Muslims doesn't mean we're not British, we're not Canadians, we're not Americans or Australians or Europeans. We are members of the society. It's just like other Christians and other denominations who have some conservative values. We also have some religious values that we'd like to adhere to. So as long as the other side, the friend, understands this, respects this from me, then there's nothing wrong associating with them. It's just that we have to be careful when they start calling. We subconsciously start to be affected by the environment we live in. This is subconsciously. If you start hanging out with a bunch of guys who always talk about cars, inevitably you will start talking about cars. The examples in your talk that you'll be given will be about cars. Subconsciously you start to subconsciously, slowly you'll start to dress like them, wear like them, behave like them. This is subconscious, You may not even notice it. And that's why the environment is very important. It plays a big role on the individual. You find a lot of our sisters sometimes, they start hanging out with girls who don't wear hijab. And all of a sudden you find them taking off the hijab. And so,
Sheikh, sorry to cut you off, but we now have to go for a very short break. But once we're back from the break, we'll carry on with our discussion of the two more qualities to look for in a friend. Is that correct?
Yes.
Inshallah. So do stay tuned. Inshallah, we'll come back in about 2 minutes' time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahlulbayt Live tonight, or this afternoon. I keep saying tonight because I'm used to doing the late night shows on the channel. This afternoon we're discussing commitment to virtue, are you in? And our topic tonight, again, this afternoon, is the concept of friendship with my Sheikh Usama Al Attar. Again, a reminder to our viewers that you can call in the program 0203 411 842. You can text us 07506 842 842, or you can tweet us at Ahlulbayt TV. We have received your questions via Facebook and Twitter, so inshallah we'll do our utmost to have them answered before the end of the program here this afternoon, inshallah. Sheikhna, before we get to those questions, we're discussing about those two remaining qualities that a person has to look forward to.
So we said a person avoid Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahj Balagha to his son Imam Al-Hassan said avoid the fool. We said we avoid the liar. We said avoid a fasiq, person who basically blatantly against religion and commits haram in public, wal-'iyadhu billah. Then he also says avoid a stingy person, bakhil, stingy. He says this man has no mercy on himself. You think he'll have mercy on you when you need him? I mean, sometimes you look at the stingy people and the way they live, I mean, you feel sorry for them. Really, I sometimes feel sorry. It's like an illness, it's like having a disease where you have so much money, but you're living like a poor person. And Imam Ali talks to such people. He says, you've accumulated the money to run away from poverty, yet you're living in poverty. So what did you accumulate all this money for? And then you're going to leave it all for the inheritors. So stingy man, avoid them. Because as a mu'min, as a believer, you need to help your fellow brother or sister. In fact, you need to help your fellow human being if you see them in need of help. If you're going to accumulate all this wealth, and a stingy man would not help anyone. And it will always come up with excuses. Oh, there's, business is not going so well these days. Oh, I've got so many commitments. Unfortunately, they'll come up with all these excuses. And mashallah, you find the guy is well off. You ask him for help, he'll give you okay, £5. Okay, here's £5 and you go deal with it. I mean, you can afford 1,000 or 5,000, if not more. But he wouldn't. So that, unfortunately, such individual, Imam Ali says, avoid him as a friend, because he will not help out. He will not be there for you. The man has no mercy on himself, he will not have mercy on you. And finally, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, avoid a person who is what he calls as qati' salat al-raham, which means that he does not establish relationship with his kin, with his father, his mother, his brother, his sister. He boycotts them. He boycotts his family. Such an individual, Imam Ali says, if this individual has no respect for the father and the mother who raised him, you think he'll really have respect and loyalty to you? Yes, and that's why something, I would like to mention to my viewers, sometimes you might come across a spouse, a potential spouse, who your parents might say, we have issues with this spouse. Now, sometimes when we love someone, we only see their positive side, we don't see any negatives. But a good guard is to have a third party to evaluate this individual. Maybe I'm blinded with love, and maybe this person is not the right person. I had a case once, for example, where a woman came and she said, a young lady, she said, I really like this guy, he's such a nice guy, he's a relative of mine, but he drinks alcohol. Now, what do you think about this? I told her, you know what, it's not me, it's, at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your choice, but in the hadith, we have a hadith from the Imams alayhimus salam who says, do not marry your daughters to someone who drinks alcohol, because you're going to basically promote, wal-'iyadhu billah, zina. You're going to promote adultery. Because what ends up happening is when this guy gets drunk, he just gets completely intoxicated. And who's at those places where others are getting intoxicated? Sometimes if he goes to a bar, wal-'iyadhu billah, or if he goes to a nightclub, wal-'iyadhu billah, who's there? And then this guy is intoxicated, and haram will lead to another haram. When you're not in your right senses, things will happen. Or he will come home and start beating the wife, abusing the wife, domestic violence. We see it happening so many times in Canada, even here probably, when people get intoxicated, they start abusing their children, their spouses, their wives, their husbands, etc. And what may end up happening, even the wife, wal-'iyadhu billah, may be forced to go and seek relationship elsewhere. So you're damaging the entire relationship. And hence, I told her, you know what?
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend it, but she said, no, but he promised me that he'll quit. He'll promise me. I told her, well, make him quit for a long time, and then if you want to marry. So have someone who will look after that. So if a person has no respect with his parents to his family, then basically he'll have no respect and loyalty to you.
Inshallah. Shaykh, before we go to the next point, we have a caller from, I believe, North Carolina. So inshallah, we'll take the call first before we proceed to our points, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you very much for calling, sister. Yes, your question or your comments, please.
Yes, I just wanted to add on to the discussion. First off, thank you guys so much for this show. It's very, I think it's very beneficial for the youth today. So I just kind of wanted to say about the topic of friendship is that sometimes like having this one friend or like a group of friends or, committing to a friendship can sometimes be a little dangerous in a way because, throughout our life, it's natural for us to become friends with someone new. Like in middle school or high school, our friendship circle changes, and especially in college, we get a new group of friends. But there's always that one person where we're really attached to, and we're always like, calling them or, making sure that they're always there when we have a problem, et cetera, et cetera. And that's sometimes it could be okay. But the thing is that once we have this person that we call our best friend or our friend, and we become extremely attached to them, and then maybe like they move or they leave or to a different country, or maybe they the relationship cuts off, and so we can become really stressed out and depressed and sad. And this summer I've heard so many stories similar to this about friends of my own who have lost someone, and or not just by death, but like even school-wise, etc. And they become so attached to these people that it's their number one priority person to go to at all times. And I just wanted to make a point that even though we're going to have all these friends in our lives, we need to make sure that we don't make them the number one person for everything, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verily your friends are none other but God and His Messenger. And I really want to make sure that people understand that even if you don't have any friends, even if you feel like you're lonely or you don't have anyone to talk to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there for you. And we really need to make sure Allah is our main friend before anyone else.
Right.
So that even if you do have 10 friends or one friend, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always going to be your go-to person first.
Santi, sister, just to clarify, sister, on that verse, it's the proper translation of the ayah is your masters are only Allah and His Messenger, as opposed to your friends. Awliya, wa innama waliyukum Allah. Wali here is master, as opposed to friend. So your masters are Allah and His Messenger. So there's nothing wrong in having people as companions, but I do agree with you in the sense that we need to realize that this individual may move, may go on, and hence it's okay to have some emotional attachment to a person. We're human beings at the end of the day. In fact, even Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he lost Ammar ibn Yasir, when he lost some of his companions, Ibn Tayyihan, according to Nahj al-Balagha, he sat on the pulpit and started crying, and he said, "Where are my friends? I've lost them." Ammar ibn Tayyihan, the Shuhadatain, and he started mentioning some names, and he's like, these dear companions of mine, I've lost them. So he feels lonely, he feels alone. And then Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr got martyred, and Malik al-Ashtar got martyred, so he lost his dearest companions. And it's okay to have some attachment and comfort in some people, but I do agree with you. Of course, we need to realize, like Imam Ali, although he cried for his friends, but does not mean he went into the state where he's depressed, because of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah says, indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, the hearts find peace and tranquility. So I definitely see your point in there. Ahsanti. Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you very much, sister, for adding your thoughts and comments to the topic. I think Sheikhna, she mentioned, the sister mentioned a very valid point, and again, this is very similar to the question that we've received via Facebook and Twitter, and we're discussing this during the break. Is that what are therefore the rights of a friend of another friend, and what are the boundaries? I mean, she mentioned very clearly that we should be very wary of how much we can trust someone,
right,
or commit to a friendship with another person. But again, I think this topic is quite large to discuss, and we have another caller, I've been told, so
right,
maybe we'll take that call first, and then we'll carry on. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, brother.
Sheikh, I have a question on anger.
Okay.
And I know it is not directly related to the friendship.
All right.
But I have observed that I have caused myself the most damage because of anger all the time. I have put myself in trouble.
Okay.
And I have lost great friends because of that.
I see. Okay. Well. Okay. So.
And I know that ghadab is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is one of the sickness we have. And can you enlighten how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Ahlulbayt have guided us, control the anger, or what they have spoken about the anger?
Right.
That we can, or I can personally learn from this.
I will mention a few points, brother, but have you had also, sometimes we need kind of a booster helper shot. Have you had some anger management, lessons or courses?
No, in fact, I'm reading some psychology and philosophical approach and trying to read on Islamic articles
because
anger.
I can give you some tips, inshallah. I will provide some of the sayings of Ahlul Bayt. But sometimes, brother, my dear brother, what happens is what I'm telling you right now needs to be put in practice. And to practice, so attending these anger management classes, I know you're reading some books on psychology and philosophy, as you just mentioned. The problem is sometimes these books, you may not learn through just reading. You need to practice. So these courses, if you're feeling that it is really impacting your life to the point, as you just suggested, you're losing some friends, and maybe, I don't know if it's impacting you and your family and so on and so forth. So if that's the case, you may want to consider attending some, anger management courses, because then it's more like of a hands-on applied, like a workshop basically, where they'll create a scenario for you that will make you angry, but then teach you how to control your anger. And it's a matter of practice as well. So that's why if you feel that just reading these books, just giving these tips, hearing them is not doing the job, maybe you may want to move on to the next step. And there's nothing wrong in this, even from the Islamic perspective, we sometimes need to train ourselves and get some booster help by attending some of these workshops and so on and so forth to improve the quality of our lives. So it's something to think about, brother. But to respond to your question, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead. Is that all right? And then I'll respond to your question right now. Ahlulbayt alayhim salam have suggested to us, when you get angry, for example, try to really not say anything, step away from the situation, go do wudu, even if you have wudu already. Just do wudu, then come back. Doing the wudu, the whole process of it when you wash your face, and it just slowly relaxes you. If you're sitting down, stand up. If you're standing up, sit down. If it's a relative of yours that you have an argument with, try to calm down a little bit again. You control yourself. Go, if he's a mahram or if she's a mahram, if he's a brother, you can go hug him or hold his hand. And or if she's a mahram, then hold her hand as well. And try to kind of calm yourself down this way. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. There is a nice dua in مفاتيح الجنان after Salatul Fajr. 10 times you say أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بالله أن يحضرون. I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the whispers of the shayateen, and I seek refuge that they even attend and come to me, near me. 10 times after Fajr, like after praying Salat al-Fajr before sunrise, and 10 times just before sunset. You read this dua. It's found in Mafatih al-Jinan by Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi in the section that the du'as after Salat al-Fajr. This keeps the shaitan away from you, inshallah. So again, to help you with this. So these are some tips. Doing wudu, sitting down if you're standing up, standing up if you're sitting down. If it's a relative, go hug him or her if she's a mahram, and try to read this dhikr of shaitan, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, and so on and so forth. Doing so will hopefully kind of ease your tension. Do not make any decision, do not say any word when you're angry. I know it's really hard. I mean, that's where you really have to practice, because you really want to get up and maybe punch someone in the face. But that's where you just need to control yourself. Someone is saying something to you, you control yourself, and you just don't respond at that moment, because when you're angry, I mean, in the hadith it says anger is a state of insanity. So we might say something that we don't really mean, and we'll just create a bigger mess. Okay? They say, for example, in debates, just as an example, in debates, when you're debating with someone, never get angry. Rule number 1 in debating, never get angry, because the minute you get angry, then you've lost the debate, even if you're right, even if you're in haqq. Okay, so that's something that's important here. So try to keep this. But like I said, all this is great. Reading books is great, but sometimes we might need to take it to the next step. We might need to get some medication. Sometimes we fight illnesses with our immune system, but sometimes our immune system just cannot cope anymore. We need to get a booster help by getting some medication. So doing these things is great, but sometimes, we might need to take it up to the next level, and there's nothing wrong in that, and maybe attending some anger management classes, and inshallah, that will hopefully help out.
Inshallah. Sheikh, now we have about 10 minutes before we end the program here this evening. So very quickly, we'll just briefly discuss the point that the sister from North Carolina, talked about, and the rights and the boundaries. Okay,
very briefly again, because to talk about the rights is a massive topic, right. Because you have also the mu'mineen, the rights of the mu'mineen, والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله, and so on and so forth. So they do amr bil ma'ruf. Briefly, you and your fellow friend, basically, you should be a mirror to your friend, genuinely advising them, genuinely looking after them, and try to look after their well-being, okay, for genuine reasons, because you really want them to become better. Okay, so that's really basically what the right of a friend. Look after them, whether financially, emotionally, psychologically, etc., etc., etc. Okay. At the same time, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, do not trust all your secrets to your friends, because one day this friend of yours may, God forbid, turn against you, and then he will have all your secrets. And we've seen it. Some people sometimes, so unfortunately, like, for example, Az-Zubair. Az-Zubair was such a close companion to Imam Ali alayhi salam, the cousin of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Yet what happened at the Battle of Jamal, he turned against Imam Ali alayhi salam. So if had he been the one who knows all the secrets of Imam Ali and all that stuff, he turned against Imam Ali alayhi salam all of a sudden. So you might have, so he says, do not trust all your secrets to a friend. Certain things that we do, we need to keep to ourselves, especially wal-'iyadhu billah, if we make a sin, if we commit a sin. A person, God forbid, smokes, for example, drugs, takes drugs, wal-'iyadhu billah. But then he makes a mistake, he realizes, he repents, and he does complete tawbah. These things, don't tell anyone. Keep it between you and Allah. Seek. Of course, if you're seeking help, then maybe you should go seek help. If you need to get into rehab and whatever, you know what I'm saying? But once you've done it, alhamdulillah, you've sought help, you've figured, solved the problem, these issues are best to be kept to yourself, between you and Allah. Inshallah, Allah will forgive them. Inshallah. Don't tell people about your shortcomings in that context, your haram things that you've done. Wal-'iyadhu billah. Okay, keep them between. So these are some of the boundaries to maintain. That you got to realize that a friend is a good thing, a good one, companion to talk to get vent off to sometimes. But this individual must be trustworthy, must be wise enough not to go and talk to other people. We have a lot of cases where I tell, or like a person tells someone, and that someone goes and says, okay, I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone, and then don't tell, and all of a sudden, the whole community knows. Okay, so then you realize this is not an individual you can trust anymore with anything. So these are some of the boundaries. So I have to look after a friend as if he's myself. What do I want for myself? I really want for him the betterment of dunya and akhirah. But at the same time, I got to realize I cannot say everything to a friend, especially in a marriage life. In a marriage life, you don't want the husband or the wife to say anything about their marriage life, their home, to their friends. What's in the house remains in the house. A wife should not go talk about her husband, for example, and say, yeah, we did this, and in the house he said this to me and whatever. And all of a sudden this wife goes and talks to the friend, to her husband. Her husband comes and tells that, oh, so you do this at home, you do that, you watch this at home. Like, how did you know this? Oh, well, your wife told my wife. And this could create a lot of havoc, in the house, whatever. Or like, oh, you had a fight with your wife the other day. Like, how did you know this? It's like, well, your wife was really angry and she called my wife and she complained to her, and so my wife told me, and my wife told me to talk to you. And the husband might be getting more angry. It's like, why did you tell anyone? We had a fight, we resolved it. Why did you have to go tell someone else? Sure. The same thing with the husband. He will go and tell his friend, and his friend will tell his wife will come and tell, or he'll tell his parents, and the parents will get into a fight, and so on and so forth. So what goes on in the house remains in the house. Do not get it out. Many times we find spouses get angry, they fight, but then they resolve it. However, when they start leaking the things out, then the friend will say, no, you should not apologize. It's a matter of pride. Like, yeah, it's a matter of pride. Or the parents get involved. Now it's a bigger problem. The guy's father and the girl's father or their mothers get involved, and like, your son and your daughter, my daughter is coming to my house, she's not coming back until you apologize, and the problem escalates hugely. Keep it in between. So you cannot trust your friends with everything. There are certain things not to be shared with friends, especially when it comes to family issues. That's basically the boundaries where we...
Sheikh, now we have about 3 minutes before we end the program for this afternoon. Of course, tonight we commemorate the Sahaba, the companion, the friends of Imam Hussein, who sacrificed their lives in Karbala. Can you maybe perhaps touch upon some of these companions?
A role model of friendship. You see how, for example, Habib ibn Madahir had a close friendship with Muslim ibn Awsaja. When Muslim ibn Awsaja, was dying basically on the plains of Karbala, Habib ibn Madahir walks with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to Muslim, and he tells him, Muslim, if I was living any longer than you, much longer than you, I would have loved for you to give me your wasiyyah, give me your will. But I know I'm going to be dying, so. But Muslim, even at that stage, tells him, Habib, I do have a wasiyyah. I have a will. He said, what is it? Ya Muslim. He said, take care of him. And he points at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He said, make sure you fight until you die before him, defending him. Now, Muslim is in his final moments, giving this advice to Habib. Apparently, Muslim at that stage, when you are just in the transition between leaving dunya and going into that second world, that transition there, you start seeing things in alamul akhirah. Okay, what's there? Apparently, maybe what's happening is he started seeing the beauty of shahada, martyrdom, and he wanted Habib to have the same. So he was telling him, defend him until you die before him. And then Imam al-Hussein said, may Allah bless you, ya Muslim. You fought against us when you fought for us, defending us when you were alive, and you made us in your will when you're dying. Look at this friendship, look at this respect, look at this, love and harmony between one person to another person. I'd love for you to tell me your will. And Muslim tells him, yes, go and fight before Hussein alayhi salam, because it's such a great thing to do so. And so you find that kind of respect, that kind of relationship among these companions. It is something to cherish and learn from, about the respect and how to treat one another as friends and as mu'mineen.
Sheikh, we have about a minute or two before we end the program. Could you maybe touch upon the martyrdom of Habib ibn Madahir?
Habib ibn Madahir was titled as Sheikh Ansar, the master of the companions. The master of the companions. Imam Hussein gave him the commandership of the left wing of his army. He was an old man, a companion of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he was a man who was very well known for his Quran and akhlaq and merit, and he was also a wealthy man, not extremely wealthy, but was not a poor man. Yet he knew the merits of Shahada. He left all his wealth, he left everything, and he came to defend Imam Hussein. When he got martyred, it is said in the books of Maqatil that hadda masra'ahu al-Hussein, that Imam Hussein really was moved, was shaken by the martyrdom of Habib ibn Madahir. So may Allah bless Habib and the likes of Habib who follow the path of Habib in remembering and sacrificing for Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
Sheikh, now thank you very much for your time here this afternoon. Thank you very much to our viewers who've called in from across the globe, from Carolina, North Carolina, and I think one locally here in the UK. And of course, we send our condolences to our living Holy Imam on the martyrdom of Habib ibn Madahir alayhi salam. Inshallah, thank you very much for watching, and do carry on watching Ahlulbayt TV. We have a fantastic lineup of programs coming shortly, inshallah. And inshallah, see you again tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.